I still get tweets from people saying why are you doing your pregame show without Gunner? I'm like, I didn't. Why just
Hey guys, we're actually live right now.
wow.
So everybody, welcome to the Seth Joyner Show. Listen, I apologize for being late. No intro today. I apologize, for the back and forth between Rube and D Gun. We've been having
not me, wasn't me.
Hey, listen, we've been having some technical issues today. We did the best we could just to get in. So let's roll with it and get going. A lot to get to as far as these Philadelphia Eagles are concerned. 3-6-1. A lot of people will say, hey, there's still a half a game, ahead in the NFC East. Nonsensical. There's so much, to digest here. And I got some notes, but we're going to keep it organic. And I'm going to start off with Rube. I've been reading all your articles, all your suggestions. I think you and I kind of think along the same lines as far as Carson Wentz is concerned. When you look at this team, what do you see and where do they go at this point?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Any talk about winning the NFC East, they're not winning. They're not winning the NFC East. I mean, they're going in one direction, and you see the other teams. You see the Giants are playing better. You see teams growing. You see teams improving. Not this one. So any talk about that, and honestly, they're better off. They're going to get a top 10 draft pick as long as they don't mess it up and somehow win this division. But they won't, and they shouldn't, because that would only mask their problems. To me, they've got issues on defense, but to me, 90% of the issues are on offense. And because the coach is an offensive coach, the quarterback is the biggest issue to me. And people are like, is it Doug or is it Carson? It's both of them. To me, it's both of them. And that's where the real problem is. That's what makes it so hard to fix. And yes, the offensive line has been shaky. Yes, the receivers aren't elite. But to me, Carson is the source, is the root of all the issues on the offense. Really, most of the issues on the team right now. His indecisiveness, his lack of pocket awareness, his inability to move and make plays on the run for the most part, not seeing the field, locking onto his first receiver, not finding open guys, right down the line, getting sacked in the end zone. I mean, these are issues that you wouldn't expect from a rookie. So to me, that's where it all starts.
Derek, I want to talk to you about the mood of the football team because, you being the guy that was interviewing the players, you were closest to the players. And you can kind of give, the viewers and the listeners and everybody, some insight into what this team looked like in 2017 and what it looked like last year and potentially what it's looking like on the inside and what it's feeling like on the inside. I am of the opinion that Carson needs to sit. That's my opinion. Okay. And as journalists, we can all, we're all entitled to our opinions. You've got the Carson Wentz apologists that are out there that say that, hey, there's bigger issues. Doug is the issue. The offensive line is the issue. The wide receivers are the issue, so on and so forth. And I want to dig into that a little deeper. But if you don't sit him, my issue is if you don't sit him, then what is the message? Doug said to sit him would send the wrong message to the team. It sends the message that we're giving up on the season, okay? My question is, what if you don't sit him? Because you've got 52 other guys on that roster that are held to a standard of play that when they don't perform up to that standard, they have to sit down. Avonte Maddox sat down last week. Even though they want to talk about Jason Peters taking himself out of the game, listen, he knew he was done. He knew he was overmatched. He stepped out of that game, and I'm pretty sure they were happy that he stepped out, and they were probably that close to pulling him anyway, okay? So if other guys are held to a standard, and when they don't perform at that standard, but the rule doesn't apply to the most important guy on your team. What message does that send the rest of the team, and how does that affect the rest of the team and how they perceive not only Doug Peterson as the head coach of this football team, but a quarterback who verbalizes that he's untouchable?
I think it sends a message that we've known it to be for quite some time, that a franchise quarterback or so-called franchise quarterback, whatever you want to call it, is held to a different standard to the rest of the football team. This debate has been going on for weeks. Should Carson sit? Should you sit him down? So on and so forth. I'm not of the opinion yet that you should just sit him for a game. But as I approach this game on Monday night against Seattle, if Carson is playing the same style of football he's been playing, which has caused more gut-wrenching moments than anything else, then in the second half, I make that transition. It can't get any worse at that point. If Seattle, which can score points, now they give up points like Christmas gifts, but if they're up by a large margin because this Eagles team can't score, if I'm Doug Peterson, then I have to say, okay, Jalen Hurts, show us what you can do. Now, obviously, it's going to be a different offense, a different attack at Seattle. But at that point, now if Jalen somehow finds a way and rallies them and gets them close, somehow finds a way to win that game, then I make the announcement Jalen Hurts will be starting the next game at Green Bay. You don't want that division in the locker room right now. Now, players are starting to whisper under their breath about what's going on. But the one thing I will give Doug Peterson credit for since he took over this team, you don't hear players openly finger pointing, as we do see in a lot of other organizations when things go bad. But now you're starting to hear little whispers. You know, Brandon Graham came out and said prior to the last game, practice was sloppy. Okay, and it carried over into the game. They played the game sloppy. Your head coach has told us 2 consecutive weeks now, maybe I should call more plays for Carson to be outside the pocket. I've been screaming since before the 2019 season when Carson stood at a podium in front of all of us and said, I'm trying to become more of a pocket quarterback. And I'm like, no. That is not your claim to fame. That's not what got you as a second pick in the National Football League. And when they keep trying to do this, make him a pocket quarterback. He is not a pocket quarterback. You have to utilize all of his athleticism. Get that man outside of the pocket. I think that's where he's the most effective. I think he throws better on the run than he does as a stationary target. And that's saying a lot when you consider he's only completing 58% of the passes, which is ludicrous for a franchise quarterback. But I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon and say, sit him right now. No. Unfortunately, because you're still very much in a very putrid divisional race, he is your best option. Now, come Thursday night, after this game on Thursday night with Dallas and Washington, Eagles won't be in first place. There's a possibility they could regain again next Monday night if they somehow found a way to beat Seattle. But for the money, Howard's not going to sit. Howard's not going to allow him to sit because Howard will have to justify the money and making him that number 2 overall pick. It's not going to happen right now. As much as a lot of us might like to see it, that's not going to happen yet. And Doug has told us that already. It's not going to happen.
I just, I have an issue with it. Listen, I'm not saying that you sit the guy, for an entire game, but when you stand up at the podium in your your post-game press conference, and you say a couple of weeks ago, hey, I'm going to just keep being myself. I'm going to keep, taking my shots down the field. I'm going to keep giving my guys, an opportunity. And then he comes back after this last game, and he utters some of the same exact things. Hey, I don't care what you guys think. I'm just going to go out and play my game. Well, wait a minute. Who in the organization is going to sit him down, Rube, and say, you know what, dude? You're averaging 2 turnovers per game, okay? Something has to give, okay? Because if you don't, whatever conversations that are going on, I go back again to the Carson apologists because you know what they're saying? Oh, it's everything else around him. But I'm watching him make bad decisions. I'm watching him, be very inaccurate. I'm watching him, he has no confidence whatsoever. So you can't, The definition of insanity is trotting him out there week after week, thinking and believing that all of a sudden, some magical light is going to go on, and all of a sudden he's going to get it. In my mind, when a player, and this is the problem that I have with today's NFL, the salary cap has created a situation where you cannot sit a guy, you cannot cut a guy, you cannot, demote a guy because of what the salary cap says. Okay. It takes away the most important process of the game of football, and that's competition. Okay. It takes it away because guys come into camp. Once they make the roster, if they're a veteran, they know after game one, they're getting the entire check. So the teams are powerless, to have any kind of incentive or any kind of motive to cut a guy to send a message to the rest of the guys to shape up or ship out, So I'm watching a football team, guys, that just it's not just the quarterback. Nobody looks like they're giving full effort, If that was the best effort that Jason Peters could give, then you know what? The Eagles should cut him now and put Mailata back there. Don't even worry about putting him at guard. Make the move now, okay? Because that was horrendous what you saw. Against Olivier Vernon, you give him 3 sacks. This guy jumped all over the NFL trying to find a home after a couple of great years, okay? And he made Jason Peters look like a rookie at left tackle, okay? I'm watching Fletcher Cox 2 weeks ago, on the goal line. He gets double teamed. He should be knifing underneath, okay? And he stands up and just lets 2 guys push him 5 yards in the end zone, okay? Now, I get it. He's being double teamed every play, and you got 600 pounds laying on him every single play. But I tell you what, Aaron Donald ain't laying down like that. Jerome Brown, who everybody wants to compare him to, I sent out a tweet, don't you ever mention Fletcher Cox's name in the same breath with Jerome Brown, because it ain't even close, okay? So these guys, you're talking about a guy on the average is making $20 million a year, okay? And he flashes 1 or 2 plays a game. Something is way wrong beyond just Carson on this football team, okay? And I don't know where they go, what it looks like, because Carson is unfixable right now. He's flawed. Dare I say he's a little incompetent. He's a little pig-headed, Doug with his play calling, to your point. Listen, when you're running the ball the way they started off running the ball the last 2 games, and then Doug doesn't take the opportunity to convert that running attack into play action pass to get him out of the pocket and do some of the things that he talked about. If he didn't do it then, he's never going to do it. He's going to roll Carson out there and give him 40, 50 passing plays every single game, and the Eagles are going to get their behinds handed to him because you want to know something? Carson Wentz is a game manager right now. Right now. That's what he is. And Doug needs to treat him as such right now. If there's anything that they're going to, rescue from this season, he's got to do that right now. But we all know that he won't.
I think the most important thing you just said is that this is not going to fix itself. And the fact that Doug's answer to Carson's, I don't know what you want to call it, slump or whatever. It's more than a slump. It's 10 games. It's not going to go away if nothing changes. It's not going to fix itself. And he just keeps running him out there with the same game plan, with the same scheme, with the same flawed approach, and the same thing keeps happening. There's 6 games left, and Doug hasn't found a way to. That's why, to me, the only answer right now is to sit the guy. I'd rather just announce on Monday, Jalen Hurts is going to start. That way he gets the reps with the ones. I wouldn't want to stick the kid in there at halftime without any reps. But either way, it's not even about Jalen Hurts. It's I don't even care. You start Sudfeld. I don't care. Put Clayton Thorson in. You remember, Seth? Remember in '92, Randall. I think Kotite benched Randall for a game, but he said right what he did. He said it's for one game. I think he played McMahon for one game. Mm-hmm. He said Randall's going to go back in after this game. It might have been the smartest thing Kotite ever did, which is a low bar, but it helped Randall. He just stepping away, just getting a different view of the game for a week. having that pressure off. And, you look at Donovan in 2008 when he got benched in Baltimore for Kevin Cobb at halftime. He came back the next week. He threw 4 touchdowns against Arizona, took that team to the NFC Championship game, and they should have won that game if they call a pass interference on Rod Hood on Kevin Curtis, right, Gunner? But I really think there's a lot of value in stepping back, catching your breath, and maybe getting a different perspective on the game, because if you keep running them out there every Sunday, nothing's going to change.
Doug Peterson said after the game, we're going to find out, who's in and who's out. Okay. To me, this is the perfect time to motivate your quarterback. At the other end of the spectrum, too, as well, when Nelson Aguilar struggled, I remember, because people were calling for Doug and Howie to cut him, deactivate him for the year. And I remember saying, just sit him for a week. Sit him for a week and let him just stand on the sideline and watch the game from a different perspective, okay? And it changed. Everything changed for him. I mean, he comes back, he plays well, he rolls into the next year. He's an integral part of, the success and them winning a Super Bowl that year. What could possibly be so wrong with Doug Peterson just sitting Carson, giving him a breather, giving him a break? And I get it. You pay the guy $128 million. 108 of it is guaranteed. You can't do anything about that. But shouldn't you be able to motivate your players however it is that you can motivate them, rather than them walking around feeling like, I got the organization by the balls and nothing you can do or nothing you can say is going to change me? Because when I listen to him talk, that's the impression that I get, that he doesn't care. He is bought into the fact that his O-line is hurt, that Doug is not calling the best plays for him, and that his wide receiver core is young and doesn't know what to do. So he's not assuming the responsibility. The first thing about getting better, the first thing about recovery is admitting that you first have a problem. And if you won't admit that you have a problem, then there's no way in the world that you can ever get better or you can ever get well.
Well, I look at it like this, Seth. Nobody at this point has taken that approach with him. I don't know if there's anybody who has that kind of relationship with him. Now, we keep hearing about his relationship with Press Taylor, their buddy and all this stuff. But when was the last time you saw anybody go over to the sideline and sit on the bench with Carson and talk to him after a miscue? When was the last time you saw Doug Peterson stop? I've seen coaches stop a quarterback coming off the field, hey, and talking to his ear before he keeps going to the bench. When was the last time you saw that? I don't know. This is the most perplexing scenario that I've seen in quite some time in terms of the dynamic between the head coach, the coaching staff, and the players. If you ask me, do I think the players care? Yeah, players care. When I look at Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, they care. Darius Slay, those players care. When I look at some of the younger, hungry players, whether it's Avonte Maddox, Cravon LeBlanc, those players care. They're trying to get paid down the road. Those players care. I'm not going to say players don't care, but there's something in the overall mindset, and it doesn't just happen on game day. It starts at practice leading up to a game. So this doesn't just unravel now. And I don't know if it's not enough of the so-called leaders in that locker room stepping up and getting in people's faces. Outside of a Malcolm Jenkins, you really didn't have that much in the past. Occasionally, a Jason Kelsey, occasionally a Jason Peters or a Lane Johnson, but you need a definitive body or definitive bodies that are not afraid to step in people's faces and say, have to bleep together. I don't think you have that. And all the time, especially in recent years in Doug Peterson's tenure, when we've asked players about who are the leaders in this locker room, a lot of players will say two things. Number one, yes, I have the ability to lead, but number two, I like to lead by example. Well, leadership comes in two forms. It is physical in actions, And a lot of times it has to be verbal as well. And I don't think there's enough of that, and especially now that there's not a Malcolm Jenkins in that locker room. I don't think there's anybody bold enough to step up to assume that role, that definitive role as the verbal leader in that locker room.
Let me tell you why, okay? Because I've lived in locker rooms, the greater part of my life. You can only be a leader, be it if you're a guy that just wants to lead by example, or if you're a guy that leads verbally. You can only lead, guys, if you're productive. Okay? Mm-hmm. Guys do not follow non-productive players. You know what happens to non-productive players that try to lead? They get talked about behind their backs in the locker room. Because when we sit in that meeting room on Monday morning and we're watching game film, okay? That old adage, the eye in the sky doesn't lie, okay? Mm-hmm. Everybody is watching what every other player is doing. And, the first 2 years of my career under Buddy, we'd all watch as a team. We'd watch together. So the defense got an opportunity not only to see what they were doing, but we got to see who was producing on the offensive side, and the offense got a chance to see who was producing on the defensive side, okay? Now you can form leaders under those premises. Okay, because everyone's looking. Yeah, you know what? I looked up to Reggie. Yeah, I looked up to a Jerome. You want to know why? Because those guys were productive. They possessed some things that I didn't possess when I first came in the league. Okay, I needed to learn how to rush the passer. I learned how to rush the passer by watching Reggie White and Jerome Brown and Clyde Simmons. Okay, my coverage skills improved by watching guys like Eric Allen. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when guys are productive, then they can have a voice. If they're not productive and they have a mouth, guess what happens? Now your locker room begins to fracture because the more they talk, the more they get talked about behind their backs, okay? And the problem is Carson stood up and gave this grand speech before the game last week, okay? And then he went out and he laid an egg. All right. Now, I got it down here in my notes. The defense isn't playing all that well, but the defense played well enough last week to win that football game. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've been in that locker room before. I've experienced that before where the defense is playing well and the offense, in Buddy's old words, they can't pee a lick, can't pee a drop. Okay. And what begins to happen is there's this relentlessness that begins to happen, on the defensive side of the ball where you're like, man, come on, just make a first down. Give us the time to get a drink of Gatorade before, we got to go back out there. Just put 14 points on the board and we'll take care of the rest, And you're right. Doug Peterson has done a good job of keeping his team together. But when the eye in the sky gets turned on and players start to see the other players are chirping and they're not doing anything, they're not producing, it will have that type of effect. It's impossible for it not to happen.
Yeah, but see, the players that I just mentioned, the Lane Johnsons, the Jason Kelce's, the Brandon Grahams, those guys are warriors. Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson to me are some of the toughest players I've ever watched play. People have no idea how much Lane Johnson is in pain playing on one leg with an MCL and an ankle that's getting drained every other week. Jason Kelce went out there and played basically one-arm football the last half of the game. Brandon Graham at 32 years old is probably having one of his finest seasons as a professional athlete. The physical leadership they're showing. My question is it verbal enough? See, and I think those three have the pedigree to be able to get in people's faces. If anybody in that locker room can get in people's faces because of the pedigree and the desire week in and week out, even in a horrendous situation, it's those three.
Well, I just believe that it's hard, and one of the things that I felt about Carson last year from a leadership standpoint, I thought that he stepped into that role last year when those young guys took the field and he was getting production out of these young wide receivers because everyone was hurt. I felt like, hey, you know what? Now he's able to he just stepped into his rightful role as the leader of this football team because these young guys are coming to him. And as they come to him, he's helping to teach them. They're following his lead, you know. But this regression that we're witnessing, I mean, young guys, listen, when young guys are wide open and you don't give them the ball, I mean, there are some throws that he misses that, and a franchise quarterback, an NFL quarterback for that matter, they just can't, he can't miss those types of throws. There are plays to be made. And Rube, when I watch, you know, and I'm gonna start a new segment next week called Chalk Talk, where I'm gonna take one or two plays on the offensive side and one or two plays on the defensive side, and I'm gonna break it down. And I'm gonna add it to the show. But everyone wants to talk about, as far as Carson is concerned, oh, he doesn't have time to throw the ball. Oh, you know, the wide receivers aren't creating, you know, space. Okay, that ball that he threw to Travis Fulgham that was intercepted and then reviewed. Okay, if you look in the flats, Boston Scott is standing in the flat all by himself. Why? Because they blitzed two guys off the side. One of those guys was supposed to take Boston Scott, and he turned him loose. And he had no awareness that was going on, no vision to see it. Because you know what? If he throws him the ball, that's a touchdown. But you know what he did? He made up his mind before he even snapped the ball that he was going to throw that ball deep to Travis Fulgham, and he almost threw an interception, a ball that should have been intercepted. And I see people on social media, oh, Travis should have caught that ball. Are you kidding me? He threw it into triple coverage, and you had a guy in the flat wide open.
Yeah, and it also should have been DPI, but that's another story. But no, you're totally right. I can't remember a whole lot of situations this year where he found his hot on a blitz. I mean, he's just not seeing the field. And I would guess, I don't know what the number is. I would guess 30 to 35% of the sacks are directly on Carson. You know, a quarterback's got to get rid of the ball. There's going to be pressure. There's going to be times. Look, the O-line is not playing well. I'll be the first to say that. But there's no way they're as bad as the numbers say. Carson's been sacked 40 times. I would guess 12 to 15 of them are his fault just by standing there and being indecisive and not seeing things and locking on to one guy and waiting for that guy to get open instead of going through his progression, going deep to middle to short. Or whatever that read is. I couldn't agree more. And I don't know why people are still defending him. He's having one of the worst seasons of any quarterback in the last 30 years, for crying out loud. It's not the O-line. It's not the receivers. I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts might not be an NFL quarterback. I don't know. But if you put a guy back there, you put Nate Sudfeld back there, all of a sudden the O-line would look better. The receivers would look more open, and the whole operation would have more rhythm to it and more flow, because quarterbacks got to make quick decisions. You know, you just, that's part of the job. You got to think quick. You got to see things, and he's not doing that. And it's making everyone else look worse.
Question for both of you guys. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, you know, Rube, you mentioned Nate Sudfeld, and this is a question I've been asking for weeks now. You bring this man back here, you pay him a low salary, $1 million. He's been here for 3 years. You professed back in March that we are confident in his ability to run this offense. We are comfortable with Nate Sudfeld in this offense. And then all of a sudden, your number 2 draft pick, who has no minicamp, no OTAs, no preseason games, all of a sudden leapfrog past him to your number 2 quarterback. And nobody has ever been able to definitively explain how that happened. How did Nate Sudfeld possibly regress that much to where he drops to number 3, and this guy in a limited body of work all of a sudden escalates to number 2? And I still don't understand that, to the point where Nate Sudfeld is inactive every week. Now, we keep talking about making a transition from Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts. What about Carson Wentz to Nate Sudfeld? I mean, this man's been in the league 4 years as a professional athlete. I still don't believe 5 years. Okay, I still don't believe that Jalen Hurts has a full grasp of this overall offense. I think he has a limited role. He might be able to run a wishbone version of this offense or a wildcat version of this offense, which most teams across the league now know how to defend a lot better than they did 5 years ago. So why not give Nate Sudfeld a chance? What did Nate Sudfeld do to regress that much to where we're now sitting here for the last couple of weeks talking about a rookie who's untested as a quarterback in his roots? Because I agree with, I don't even know if he's an NFL quarterback. When you look at where he came from, Alabama and Oklahoma, look at the talent he was surrounded by. Okay, look at pedigree. He played at the most dominant college in pro football down in Alabama, and then he transfers to a basketball conference at Oklahoma, where defense is a novelty, and look at the weapons he had around him there. So we don't know what Jalen Hurts is. I don't want to find out what Jalen Hurts is now. I want to find out more so now. What is Nate Sudfeld? Because if he gives you nothing, why is he on the roster?
Listen. When they made the decision to draft Jalen Hurts, that told you all you need to know about Nate Sudfeld.
I agree.
Okay? Because listen, if they thought that he could play, then you don't use that pick on a guy to back up a quarterback that you just paid $128 million to. Okay, you don't leapfrog this kid unless you've seen enough in him, to say that, okay, he's better than the guy that we have. Okay, they had already made their mind up. He's an insurance policy to the insurance policy. Okay, my problem, my thing is, 1 second, Ruben, I'm gonna pass it to you. My thing is, what really ticks me off about the whole Jalen Hurts thing, Gun, is that you put him out there to run read option every time you put him out there. Mm-hmm. It's a token thing. And I almost feel like Doug is like, well, I didn't want him I didn't want to draft him at that position. Howie made the decision to draft him. Howie made the decision for me to bump him up to number 2 and deactivate Sudfeld. And Howie's twisting my damn arm to put him out there at least 1 or 2 plays a game and give him, a couple of plays to run so that we can look like we're getting some return on investment out of this kid. Okay. Listen, I've seen people, the Wentz apologists, talk about, he can't throw the ball. He lost his job in Alabama. I'm like, do you want to go look at the numbers that he put up at Oklahoma last year? Now, listen, Oklahoma is not the NFL, okay? But everybody else has seemed to find a way to use the read option and the RPOs and all of those types of things. When Nick Foles was struggling, what did they do? They reached back in the archives of Chip Kelly and pulled out an old playbook and gave Nick Foles an offense that he felt comfortable with. Now you're going to tell me, okay, why in the world has Jalen Hurts and all the plays that he's played this year only thrown the ball twice with 1 completion for 18 yards? Tell me why. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because they're scared to death that they'll find out that he can throw the ball, that he can operate that offense, that he can run RPOs, that he can do some of the things that Lamar Jackson was doing when Lamar Jackson was being Lamar Jackson. Okay, and they'll find themselves in a quandary that they got themselves out of when they let Nick Foles walk away. Okay, they're afraid. So don't tell me that you can't take Nick Foles' package and give it to Jalen Hurts. Don't tell me that you don't have the game film from Alabama and Oklahoma, that you can't take some plays that he knows and implement those plays and put him out there and give him an opportunity to succeed. That's nonsensical. He doesn't have to run Carson's offense. Nick Foles didn't run it. The season wasn't over when Nick Foles came in. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden the season is over if you put Jalen Hurts in. Nonsense. Tell us the truth.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think he's 2 for 2. He's thrown 2 passes. Jalen Hurts, 1 to Richard Rodgers and 1 to Jalen Reagor. First of all, it makes him really easy to defend because teams know when he comes out there what's going to happen. He's not throwing the ball. But also, I feel like it's a token. It's like, all right, I think it's Howie saying, look, I drafted this kid. What was he, 57th or 53rd, whatever he was. I don't want him sitting the bench. I don't want. That's embarrassing. So it's like a token. All right, we'll put him in here, and we'll run some play. We'll put him in twice in this game. but it doesn't. You look at what the Saints do with Taysom Hill, and I mean, not now when he's starting, but you look at what they do and how he's a real change of pace and what he brings to that offense, the unpredictability. He could throw it, he can run it, he can catch it. You never know where he's going to line up, what he's going to be. And Drew Brees comes off the field, so that's another weapon that comes on the field. They're so scared of Carson, they don't even take him off the field and put a real receiver out there to give Jalen Hurts weapons around him. To me, it's all about trying to justify taking him in the second round where they probably shouldn't have taken him in the first place because they had so many other needs. It's a token use of him, try to make him look like they didn't waste the pick, and it has no function and no flow in what they're trying to do offensively. Give him a series. Give him a series. Let's see what he can do. How can it hurt?
It's
a little rhythm.
To me, it's a wasted play. Because 9 times out of 10, they tried him out there on second down. He's fumbled the ball twice and fell on it. Okay. He got 6 yards last week. Everybody knows what's going on. You're playing 10 against 11 because Carson's standing out there and he shouldn't be. If you're going to put Jalen in, take him out, put a wide receiver in. Okay. They can load up the box with 8, 9 guys. They make it impossible for you to run that read option. All you got to do is find the open side. That's where they're going to run it to every single time. My goodness. Listen, I don't get paid to coach. I watch the game, for the love of the game and because I'm an analyst. If I can see it, you mean to tell me that the guys that get paid millions of dollars to understand this stuff can't see it? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. You're wasting a down. You're wasting 2 or 3 downs every single game because you put him in there and you get nothing out of it. You mean to tell me that 6 yards that he got on that one run that Carson Wentz couldn't run that same play? Why aren't you running those plays with Carson? I just, it makes no sense to me. What are we really trying to do?
That's why you can't make roster. That's why you can't make game decisions based on what your GM wants. You just can't do it. You just get into trouble. You can't do that. You can't play that game.
Yeah, but see, that's why Doug Peterson was hired. He was the anti-Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was confrontational. Chip Kelly got Howie Roseman jettisoned out of his own office. Doug Peterson came in, and he's like Mary Poppins. That's what they wanted. They wanted somebody basically that they could control. Who was and when they hired Doug Peterson, all I heard throughout the building was, Doug is such a breath of fresh air. He says hi to everybody. He's gracious to everybody. Chip Kelly would walk down the hall past people 3 or 4 times a day, wouldn't even acknowledge them, wouldn't even acknowledge their existence. And I'm talking about prominent people in the organization like the Mike Quicks, the Harold Carmichaels, and people like that. Doug Peterson has a moment for everybody. That's how he wanted. He wanted somebody who he could have his ear. He couldn't pull that with Chip Kelly. And now, and I hate to keep saying it because it's been talked about time and time again, I think we're starting to find, we've started last year even to find out what Doug Peterson is without a Frank Reich. And basically what we need to do is get another Frank Reich in here somehow, some way. And I don't know if that's possible at this point. Because the next Frank Reich is going to be a head coach somewhere.
A lot of good offensive coaches out there, available.
I agree.
Yeah, but consider this, okay? Doug Peterson was calling plays in Kansas City. He was relieved of those duties in Kansas City. A lot of people don't remember or even know that, okay? I believe that Jeffrey Lurie should demand that Doug Peterson relinquish his play calling duties and hire an offensive coordinator. You know what I believe? I don't know. I just get this feeling because I've thought about it. I've been thinking about it. If they try to twist his arm and make him give up play calling duties, because he's been asked about it, and he's like, "No, I like calling plays. I'm always going to call plays." I think Doug Peterson walks away if they ask him to do that. If they ask him to relinquish that, I think he walks away.
First of all, that's not Jeffrey Lurie's MO. He doesn't like to get involved in that kind of stuff unless he absolutely has to. He likes to hire people strategically and step back and then watch it and then have to make an assessment when he has to. Number 2, I agree with you. Maybe Doug should give up play calling, but who are you going to give it to?
Marty
Les Taylor? Scangarello? I mean,
Marty.
Supposedly Marty's helping them come up with game plans every week. You honestly think Marty could be any better than what we have right now?
I do.
Haven't we seen that picture before though?
Andy gave it up to Marty a couple times, and he did really well. I think Marty's got a real flair for it, and I think it's not an easy thing to do. And I think coming up with a game plan and calling plays on game day are different things. I think Marty's really good at it. Marty's a weird dude, but I think he's got a good knack for it.
But Rube, isn't this the same Marty who had play calling taken away from him when he was in Baltimore? Now, I agree with you. When he was with Andy, he did a pretty good job when he stepped up. But for whatever reason, he didn't have that same type of success, afterwards. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying different time, different era. And
different game, different players, different situation. Yeah. And I think he's the best option. I don't want Scangarello was terrible at it. Press Taylor can't do it. I think Marty's the best option. I really do. And I agree with you about Jeff Lurie. He tries to maintain his distance from football operations. But I think when you look at where this team is, Gunner, I think desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you 100%. That's why I posed the question. Who are you going to give it to? I mean, the pickings are slim, but it can't be worse. Who?
How about Deuce?
You know what? I don't disagree, but because Deuce has never really done it, I mean, it's now the time to do it.
Deuce can do it. Deuce can.
Listen, I don't think Doug gives it up this year anyway.
I don't either.
We're not talking about this year. We're talking more about next year. A lot of people are talking about Doug being fired. Listen, Doug's not going anywhere, for at least one more season.
I agree.
So that's not the issue. The issue is, how do you get play coordination? As a player, when I studied by formations. Wednesday was my run day. Thursday was my pass day. Okay. If I've got, 12 personnel, I'm breaking down all the runs out of 12 personnel. I want to know what down they run it on. I want to know what part of the field they run it on. Okay. I want to know the top plays, that they run, the top running plays that they run off of it. Okay. And then when I get to Thursday, I want to break down all the pass plays out of 12 personnel. Why? Because you know what? Most good offensive coordinators, they have secondary plays built off of their runs. So what do? Okay. If you're running a dive left, then you've got a bootleg off of that. And I need to know, same thing, what down they like to run it, who they like to throw it to, what part of the field they like to. So as a defensive player, now I've got some kind of idea, okay, how they're going to try to attack me. Just by formation. When I see the formation, all I need to know is what down it is and where we are on the field. So now I can begin to start to anticipate. When I watch Doug Peterson call plays, guys, I'm not sure what's going on because there is no coordination. There is no, we just gashed him for 20 yards on this play. Let's run it again and see if they'll defense it. Oh, better yet, we got another 5 yards on it. Let's flip it over and run it the other way and see if we can get something going the other way. And then once we run it, okay, we got them thinking about it. We got the defense coordinator and the players thinking about it. What's the play pass off of that? Do we got a bootleg off of it? Do we got a read option fake off of it? I don't see that. I don't see the coordination in the least little bit. And I think that that's where the confusion is for Carson Wentz because the offense is so predictable. I'm watching Tom Brady last night, and I'm going to tell you, everybody's killing Tom Brady today. But think about this and think about it in comparison to Carson Wentz. Not Tom Brady to Carson Wentz, but this analogy, okay? Bruce Arians is the type of offensive coordinator and head coach. His motto is no risk it, no biscuit. We want to throw the ball down the field. We want big plays. We want shots, okay? Tom Brady has lived by the dink and dunk. Mm-hmm. We'll take what you give us. We'll move the chains. We'll score almost every possession. And then once we force you to come after us, once we force you to play a coverage where we can get the matchup with Rob Gronkowski one-on-one outside, now we're going to take our shots, okay? when you look at Carson Wentz, consider this. All right. Howie Roseman's mandate was speed, guys that love the game, and healthy players. That was his 2020 mandate going into the draft. Okay. They drafted 3 wide receivers and traded for another one that opted out. Okay. When you watch Carson taking all these sacks, what is he trying to do? He's trying to push the ball down the field. Yes, the protection isn't there, but you haven't earned the right to push the ball down the field because you haven't taken the short routes to make the linebackers step up. You haven't run the ball enough to slow down the pass rush. So, yeah, he's going to take all of these. So now you think about it. He's trying to he's trying to push the ball down the field instead of just taking what the defense gives you. Why not take 5 here, 4 here, 3 here, first down, move the chains, okay? Why not work that way until let's run the ball to set up play action pass, and then once we get the lead or we force them to do something that they don't want to do and Carson Wentz realizes it, now where's my best matchup? And let's take our shot down the field. They're just trying to take shots. And, I mean, that sets Carson Wentz up to fail just as much as it's going to set Tom Brady up to fail.
Yeah, absolutely right. And yeah, there's no sense of a play setting up another play.
Exactly.
There's no sense of this play is going to work because the last play got them to do this. It's almost like Doug's just picking plays out of a hat, just random plays that don't relate to other plays and don't set things up.
That's called that's called coordination, D-Gun. Where's the coordination? You get what I've seen is I've seen Doug in his first 15 knock it out the box sometimes. And after the first 15, the offense just gets stale. They look clueless.
From what I've seen the past several games, Doug Peterson has spent more time playing to a defense's strength instead of attacking its weakness. Prime example in the Cleveland game. It showed right off the bat, Cleveland couldn't stop their run. Okay, they had 19 carries for 96 yards in the first half. Still a close game. Second half, 6 carries for 10 yards. You kidding me? So basically, you try to attack them through the air, which is what they were stronger at. Why did you now keep it on the ground and keep Baker Mayfield and those guys off? Because as well as that your defense did in terms of containing Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, you knew it was just a matter of time before one of them was going to break a big gainer. Okay, so you played to their strength. You should have kept the ball on the ground in a muck and grind game, and you didn't. And I don't understand that for the life of me.
Gunner, it takes 3 bad running plays for Doug to abandon the running game for the rest of the day.
Exactly.
And that's
I don't understand it.
But look at Chubb. When Chubb goes, he was like 18 for 26 before that 50-yard run.
Exactly.
That's why you stick with it. If you got a home run hitter, you keep throwing him, lobbing it down the middle to him, and he's going to hit one out of the ballpark.
Yep.
And Miles Sanders never gets the chance to do it because he gets 9, 11, 13 carries if he's lucky. Doug abandons the running game so quickly. It takes, look, every running back's going to have a -1, a +1. Emmitt Smith had 4 negative runs in any back in history. But you know what? You keep grinding. You keep giving it to him. You wear down the defense. You give the guy a chance, get a feel for what the defense is doing. And before you know it, that guy's going to bust one. But this, Doug never gives these guys a chance to do it.
Well, when Miles fumbled, it was almost like he went into the witness protection program after that. Because you very sporadically heard from him again. And I'm thinking, okay, now I'm of the belief Miles is an exceptional running back. He's not a 25, 28 carry back. He's not built that way. I think because of his injury history, he's not built that way. But if you give him 13 to 15 to 18 carries a game and utilize them in one-on-one situations, throw him 5, 6 balls, that's where I think he's most effective in open space. Line him up in that open space. Let him do his thing like that. You don't have to keep pounding him, but don't get away from him altogether. He's your best weapon on the offense. And basically, you diffuse your offense. As inconsistent and discombobulated as your offense is, you diffuse the one weapon that you have on offense.
Because that's not who Doug wants to be. I think that Doug, and I believe that Howie, understand and know that their wagon is hitched to the Wentz wagon, okay? They paid him a year early, in my opinion. He had another year left. There was no need to rush to, give him franchise money. He was coming off a lackluster year. Wait. Save yourself some cap space so you can continue to build a team. Let's see what happens this year, And I think that, the play calling kind of signifies, where they are and where they want to go. They want to highlight the quarterback. They want to justify the quarterback, okay? And it's the wrong thing because you got a team to consider, I mean, Doug's comments, the message that it sends. Listen, your priority is your team. You can't preach team first, okay? And look at your quarterback and realize that he's broke, okay? And leave him out there to continue to play the way that he's played, okay? And then turn to the team and say, well, we're not going to make a change of quarterback because, that signifies to the team. No, it doesn't. You know what it signifies to the team? That, hey, we trying to win. And if this guy ain't getting it done, somebody else will get it done. If that guy won't get it done, somebody else steps up. That's the whole competition. I'm not saying that you sit the guy permanently, but I'm saying that you create a sense of urgency and a sense of ownership by him by sitting him down. That's what that does. And then it sends the message to the rest of the team that this is the standard. If we're all not living up to the standard, then you must sit. Okay. And I think that that's just when we talk about the meritocracy of football and as an 8th round draft pick, I get that if I'm not doing my job, guess what? There's 5 guys sitting over there just wanting some playing time. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my ass to practice on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'm going to show out because I want the coaches to know that that's my job. I want them other 5 guys to know that this is my job. You're not coming in here taking what's mine. But Carson feels like it is his, and he don't have to worry about anything, And by Doug handling the situation the way that he does, all he does is empower him to continue to be that way. And I'm telling you right now, guys, I've seen it too many times. It is going to fracture this football team in some way, some fashion, some form. At some point, if they keep going the way that they are, and there's nothing that I've seen that indicates that this thing is going to shift, it's going to be problematic. It's going to be problematic. Let's talk some defense. Let's talk some defense because they didn't give up a whole lot of points last week, but they haven't been spectacular. There was a point where Malik Jackson jumped off sides, Brandon Graham jumped off sides, and I believe Barnett jumped off sides. And I tweeted, I was like, well, Fletcher Cox might as well go ahead and jump off so we can make sure we got all our starters with one. And I'm like, where's the discipline? I mean, Malik Jackson is lined up in a 1. You're lined up right in front of the darn ball, man. How do you jump off sides? Okay? That leads me to believe that when they line up, they're going off a sound. We've always been taught Clyde used to always tell me when I line up, I'm looking at that tackle's outside leg. The minute that leg moves, I'm gone. Okay? He can get away with that because that tackle got a kick to get back. Okay? Jerome, he used to look at the ball. The minute the ball moved, boom, he was gone. Okay? So how in the world do you continue to jump off sides and create additional possessions for teams? Okay? And the problem is, I would love to see him every time you jump off sides, come on out the game. But they only dress 4 tackles, and you already there's 2 of them out there. Yeah, you run another guy in, but at the other end of the spectrum, he's not your best tackle. What is going on with this, with this defense? Still passive, still predictable. Jalen Mills looks like a shadow of his old self. They can't find another cornerback to complement Darius Slay. And they've got it. And Jim Schwartz has got him playing so passively that he doesn't even look like himself sometimes.
I think the biggest problem with the defense is they just don't have enough players. I think the offense is a mess. They've got Pro Bowlers and big name guys all over the place. The defense, they just don't have players. I think I mean Fletcher's. I mean, their good players aren't playing well. Other than BG, Fletcher's been mediocre. They spent all this money, $60 million on the D line, and BG's the only guy earning his keep. Sweat gets a sack once a month. Slay's been really good. I think Rodney's lost a step. I think we've learned that Avonte Maddox is not an outside corner. He's tough. He's a tough kid. Maybe he's a slot. He's not an outside corner.
Rube, I think they messed him up last year. When he was starting, because Darby and Mills were hurt, and he was playing outside, he was the most fundamentally sound cornerback that they had on the team. Mm-hmm. And then they came back the next year and they gave those guys their jobs back and they moved him to slot. And then Darby got hurt again and they moved him outside. Well, you practice him the entire offseason at slot, and now you're going to throw him back outside, and you can just see that his technique, he's not a technician at cornerback anymore, okay? He's come in, and Underlin has ruined him for a year, and I thought that, the new cornerback coming in would be a technician and help these guys get better. I don't see guys backpedaling. I don't see him weaving. I don't see him opening their hips. I see guys, looking in the backfield when they got a guy man to man and the guys, running routes and they're trying to catch up. I see guys, that don't get in position when they do have good coverage. So you got pass interference. I mean, these are fundamental, basic things, and I get it. You don't have as much time as you do as they used to when I was playing. I mean, they could keep you on the field for 2 hours and then keep you in the meeting rooms for 2 more hours. I get it. You can't do that anymore. But you can't play the game, and your players can't get better, and they cannot develop if you don't give them the tools. You don't create a toolbox and give it to them and say, hey, go work on these things so you can get better. When I look at them, they're just fundamentally broken, and the linebackers are a joke. I'm looking at Alex Singleton, and I got this written down. Why in the world has it taken so long for Jim Schwartz to give this kid a chance? I've been saying for 2 years. When you watch him playing in preseason, he's all over the place. You watch him playing on special teams, he's all over the place. Again, okay, we made up our mind that Nate Gary's our guy and TJ Edwards is our guy, okay? And I don't care how bad they play, they're the starters, okay? And you got guys that are playing their tails off on special teams with skills, and you don't give them a chance to play. Okay, so now when Nate Gary comes off IR and TJ Edwards is full-time, what are you going to do? You going to sit Alex down again? Dude can play. He's the only one that was bringing the heat.
Yeah, 12 tackles, quarterback sack, tackle loss. You're right. The last 3 games in particular, he's one of the few on that defense that has really stepped up and asserted himself. And, we've all chastised and criticized the linebacking play since the season kicked off, and justifiably so. But this young man has really stepped up. And you're right. You can't sit him when Nate Gary comes back. You just cannot sit him. I think he's past Nate Gary. For my money, I think right now he's the best linebacker they have. Duke Riley's a special teamer. TJ Edwards, to me, is a run stuffer but can't cover. I think he's the best all-around linebacker they have right now.
There's no question. So one of your viewers, Seth, mentioned Michael Jacquet. Why, I think he played 30 snaps in that Dallas game when Slay left. It was his first game of his career. Fundamentally sound. He was tough. He was physical. He was in the right place. Gave up 1 pass for 9 yards. He was out there covering Gallup, and for the most part, was a good player. I'm ready to give him a shot. I'd like to see somebody on this team, be held accountable. And somebody else a shot. You see what happened with Singleton. If Nate Gary never got hurt, he never would have gotten a chance to play.
Exactly.
With that cat out there, give him a chance. Give him,
and that's lose. And that's my problem with this team. Okay, look at all of a sudden you found, Ward got an opportunity to play last year only because of injury. Okay,
right.
And everybody asked the question, where you guys been hiding this guy? For the last 2 years when we've been struggling to find a slot receiver. Nelson Aguilar was not a slot receiver. I said that from the time he got here. Go back and look at his play at USC. He was a X or he was a Z. He was never played in the slot. And all of a sudden, they're going to turn him into a slot receiver and wonder why he can't be productive. And then he walks away, and John Gruden moves him out the X or Z, and look at him tearing it up. Okay, why do we always do that? Why can't we figure our players out before we give up on them and give them to somebody else, and somebody else, injects, confidence within them, skills within them, belief within them, and then all of a sudden they begin to flourish. And then we're like, oh, well, he wasn't worth a wooden nickel when he was here. Do you ever stop and think that it's not the players, that it just might be the coaches, that the players aren't getting what they need to be successful? When I watch these linebackers play, they're not reading anything. They're looking at the quarterback and the running back. Those two players are the greatest liars on the offensive side of the ball. Think about it. If I want to run left and the quarterback takes the ball and he reverses out, what is he doing? What is he doing? He knows that the linebackers are looking at him. He knows that they're going to step the same way that he steps. Why do you have those? And I get it. With all these, I seen Doug run where, they pull two guys and run right where, they pull the guys away from. Yeah, you're going to get your key breakers. So you got to react to that. But for the most part, the guys who are going to tell you what's going on, the offensive linemen. If it's pass, they're going to pop up and pass block. If it's run, they're going to fire out on the defensive lineman. They're going to try to climb to the next level. Why aren't your linebackers reading properly so that they know where they fit and they can understand what the play, what they're defensing? If I know and I understand that, how come not the linebacker coach don't understand that? How come Jim Schwartz, can't realize that? I mean, these things are just perplexing to me, man.
Well, you look at some of the people that you were just talking about. Why can't we evaluate talent here and groom talent here? And it goes beyond a Nelson Aguilar. I mean, you look at what Sidney Jones is now doing down in Jacksonville. You look at what L.J. Ford is doing in Baltimore before he got hurt. Jordan Hicks could stay healthy here. All of a sudden, he's healthy in Arizona and having a great season in Arizona. So this is a trend that has been continuing over the past several years here. And I think in some cases, this organization has become too relaxed, too comfortable. I think a lot of times Jeffrey Lurie is loyal to a fault to people, his underlings, so to speak. I'm talking about from Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson to Jim Schwartz. I think he's too loyal a lot of times in that regard. I don't think he comes out of hiding enough and make definitive decisions like he did with Chuck Kelly. I think sometimes you have to be more visible. Jeffrey doesn't like to be visible unless he absolutely has to. I mean, this is his toy. He built this from the bottom up. He keeps talking about how he wants multiple Super Bowls and he'll do whatever it takes to get multiple Super Bowls, so on and so forth. Well, if that's the case, you got to be more like a Robert Kraft, in terms of you have to get your hand there. You have to be a part of the evaluation. You have to make the decisions that nobody else wants to make. And until he does that, it looks like we're going to keep getting what we've been getting over the past couple of seasons.
Well, this is, tough for Philadelphia Eagles fans. It's tough for me. I think that people believe that I enjoy beating the Eagles up. I think that people tune in to, post-game live because they want to hear me, dig into the Eagles, but I don't get any enjoyment out of that. Listen, the 2017 year was the most enjoyable season for me, with regards to the Philadelphia Eagles and the city of Philadelphia since I played in Philadelphia. You kidding me?
Right.
I want these guys to succeed, but my job as an analyst is to, hey, break down what I see, tell the truth, because anything less than that in the city of Philadelphia, you'll be sniffed out and people won't listen to you. They'll know that you're not legitimate. So it's just tough to talk about this team and see this team in this situation. We're looking at the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers, and the Saints. And then we finish up with the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. I hate to say this, man. I don't think they win another game.
I will say the same thing. I
I
will
don't
say the
think they, I
same
don't
thing.
think they win another game.
I think
Either
they win
that,
the game. I think
huh?
they win the game. I think they get to 4.
You think so?
I
Who they
think they
gonna
get
beat?
to 4. I
Who
think
they
they
gonna
beat
beat?
the Saints.
Who they gonna beat, Rube?
I think they might beat the Saints home without Breeze.
I don't know. No.
Did you watch that defense?
Unless
Did you
unless
watch
there's
that
2
defense?
feet of unless there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. There's the only way they're beating the Saints, even if Taysom Hill quarterback in their team. That's the only. And it's right. The Saints defense has character. That's like the 3rd best defense in the league right now.
Yeah, but they're not the
And
same when you get out of that dome.
You're right.
you're right.
That's
You're right about that.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing I agree with Rube. And I didn't think about it until you said here. It's going to be cold. They don't play well on grass, and they don't play particularly well outdoors. So there's a chance, but come on, man. I mean, the Saints are going the Saints are in the driver's seat
They're
for
not
the only number 1 seed. You think they're going to relinquish that? You think that the weather? Listen, that defensive line is going to come in here realizing that the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, they're going to play against him on that day. Listen, they're going to be drooling from their face masks. Are you kidding me?
They're going to win. They're going to beat somebody.
Yeah, you know what? They probably will. But the thing that's interesting is, and I said this before they played on Sunday, at some point Dallas was going to figure it out. And what alarmed me was they played their best defensive game of the year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went tooth and nail against the Steelers with a no-name quarterback, and they almost pulled it off. So then they had the bye week, and Dalton comes back, and he has an extra week to get a better grasp of that offense now with those weapons that they have. And I predicted they would beat Minnesota and Minnesota. Sure enough, they had 4 lead changes in that game in the 4th quarter alone. So that shows me whatever's going on down in Dallas, they're now believing that, hey, we can still do this. Okay? I look at a team like the Giants, left dead to rights. You have a coach in Joe Judge, a first-year coach, with a lot of veteran players on that team. He had players running sprints when they would make mistakes in practices. He benched a highly respected veteran in Golden Tate for a game because Golden Tate put himself first before the team. And this team is starting to play better and better each and every week. I look at Alex Smith has that offense playing better. Now, they're handcuffed. They don't have a lot of weapons down there, but Alex Smith is playing better and better with what he has down there, and that defense can keep them in games. Now, you look at the defenses that the Eagles are about to face. Seattle's defense is a sieve. Green Bay's defense is middle of the road. Arizona's defense is middle of the road. But you're talking about 4 of their last 6 opponents that score between 28 and 31 points a game. Can the Eagles score 28 points a game right now? Hell, they can't get past 17.
Have they scored 30 points in any game this season?
No.
29 is their high point. I don't know how they did that, honestly.
I don't either.
And listen. One of my viewers, Cheo Scott, he says Taysom Hill's going to run for 100 yards. I forgot about that.
I agree.
But understand, what's the one play that the Eagles haven't been able to stop all year? The quarterback run.
Yeah, or the jet sweep.
They can't. They're not going to be able to stop anything that's misdirection because Jim Schwartz coaches his DNs to close on everything play away. So that invariably leaves those plays wide open.
Before they play Cleveland, the quarterbacks were leading rushers in 3 of the previous 4 games that they played. That's all you need to know.
I'll tell you this too. Okay, so who on the Eagles defense besides Alex Singleton and the defensive line is going to tackle Taysom Hill? Because once he gets second level, those DBs don't want none. They don't want none.
What was perplexing to me is when we saw Daniel Jones sprint 80 yards past the secondary, and not one defensive back could close the distance. Not catch him, but couldn't close the distance. He kept putting further distance between them, okay? And if it wasn't for the turf monster, he would have strolled into the end zone. And you look at the second time they played him, when they ran the exact same play in the same formation, except they went to different sides. Not one DB could close on a guy like Daniel Jones. So what is Taysom Hill going to do if he gets to the outside? on defense.
Take digest this. So my listener, Laquan Weston said, he said they can't even stop Daniel Jones from running. We get Hill, Murray, Wilson.
Yep. Now this kid, Kyler Murray, every time I watch this kid, he does something else spectacular, even if it's a 5-yard run. When you look at defenders trying to get an angle on this kid, they can't even get the proper angle on this kid. When he gives up on a running play, it's because he wants to give up on a running play. Okay, so he doesn't take a necessary hit. If he hits you in a seam, before you can react and pivot your body, he's 3 yards behind you already. So what are you going to do? I mean, you know Russell Wilson's going to take off and run. You know Kyler Murray is going to take off and run. You know Taysom Hill is going to take off. Hey, Aaron Rodgers is going to run. Aaron Rodgers is going to pick up necessary. What are you going to do? And, I do agree, Rube, that somehow, some way, they have to find a way to win one of these last 6. One of them. That's all I want to see, just one. I don't know which one it is. I honestly don't.
D-Gun, I never thought I'd say this. You stand a better chance of sitting on Santa Claus's knee at Christmas time than the Eagles do at winning another game. They're not going to win another game, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, that's just what I see, and my football eyes, most of the time don't lie to me. Now, I would love for them to make me a liar, but I just can't see it because they're just not gonna fix themselves, right. In a 6-week span. What ails this football team is bigger than 6 weeks, in a myriad of ways. Listen, guys, I got to wrap. Man, we need to do this more often. I think my viewers and my listeners really like this, man, because, you guys are true football journalists. I just enjoy talking football with you, man, all the time. I mean, we could probably go an hour. We're about 12 minutes over. My producer's got to run, so I'm going to wrap it up. As always, I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate your insight. You guys are always welcome anytime, man. And I tell my guests every time, my most valuable commodity is our time. I appreciate you guys spending the last hour and 13 minutes with me today and my viewers. Appreciate it.
Do I get overtime pay for this?
Absolutely. Checks in the mail, D-Gun.
Yeah, right. You've been telling me that for 10 years. You've been telling that a lot for 10 years. But you know what? Anytime you want me, Seth, if I can make it happen, I'm happy to do it. Rube, I miss you, man. I miss our sideline antics and our conversations before and after games. And you know what? Don't count us out yet. Could happen again down the road, brother.
I knew this combo would be good, man. And in light of everything that's going on around the team, this is perfect. It was perfect time, and I appreciate you guys.
Just like Captain and Tennille, Peaches and Herb.
Can I just say one thing before we're done?
Absolutely.
I'd like to say how much I miss Gunner. I'd like to, but I can't because I
knew he was going to say it. I knew he was going to say that.
I want to say this. In 2015, they put me on quick slants with this guy. I'd never been on TV other than a couple of hits on DNL. And they gave me a show to co-host with Gunner, and he taught me something new every day. I learned so much from this man. He was so gracious, so generous, accepting a sports writer to host a show with him. And it was such a pleasure going to work every day with him, and very much appreciated. And I can't say that enough.
We got to figure out a way,
brother.
We got to figure out a way to make this threesome, something more viable. Let's chat. Let's chat, guys. Anyway, let's get out of here. Hey, happy Thanksgiving! Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Happy Thanksgiving to all our viewers and listeners. And hey, thank you to my producer Derek Stevenson and Tom Schrader. Listen, be good to each other. Take care of each other. More importantly, make sure you love each other. And tell the people you love the most what you're thankful for. Be thankful for them. All right. Peace. I'll see you guys next week. Fly, Eagles, fly.